There's an awful lot of attempts at Grayman videos discussing everyday carry. And since I've been asked what a Grayman would carry, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm not going to necessarily call it everyday carry to confuse it with all these other videos out there that are fairly uninformative and somewhat garbage, some of them. There's a lot of different things that a Grayman will carry, possibly. Practitioners of espionage have almost nothing on them all the time, so the list is going to be quite small. One thing they'll usually carry, though, will be a pen. Obviously, you can write with a pen. Some pens you can also hide things inside, whether it's paper, maybe thread, who knows, but money wrapped up. The right kind of pen, it can also be a weapon that you can stab with. Stab enough to cause a puncture wound. If you know your anatomy, you can hit the right arteries or the right places on the neck or in the base of the spine, or even enough to puncture with a second push into a kidney, you can cause irreparable damage that'll take out a target. You can also use it to control people, like a kubotan or other similar weapons, while holding it in your hand and grabbing their joints or their wrists to apply additional leverage in order to move them around the way you want them to go. Nice little spot to stabs too, right behind the base of the ear. Most of those moves are made to kill. It's uncommon to carry a knife, but if a Grayman did carry a knife, it'd only be about a 3-inch straight blade, lacking serrations typically. While serrations can be a good thing for cutting a lot of different materials, like tightly woven materials like a seatbelt, or can cause jagged injuries that could be difficult to sew. If a knife's used as a weapon, a Grayman just usually kills. And 3 inches is enough to puncture the body in several places to hit most major arteries, including the femoral one, which you would really just slice in that situation. And even if you missed the femoral and you made a good open 6, 7, 8-inch wound on a large man, they'd still be out of the picture. And slice open the gut enough on most people to where the intestines will fall out if you don't remove them yourself. Any shot on the neck will hit an artery. Any area below and under the arm by the pectoral muscle, jabbing in between the rib. While not necessarily enough to puncture a lung on larger people, it could on a smaller person. Easily can slice through most clothing down the entire length of the spinal cord, shots to the kidneys, pancreas if you know how to hit it, things like that. Just to give you an idea of why 3 inches is plenty. Plus, with a 3-inch blade, you usually have a 4-inch handle at least. Now you have 7 inches that you have to conceal, so something to look at. Graymen don't typically carry firearms. While operating in countries, they do have access to them. There are places where they will carry them all the time, but typically they won't. You're often working in cities. Could be third world countries. Could be a major city in Europe. There might be gun laws. You don't run the risk of anything that could possibly get attention drawn to you or get you arrested, which is why they don't carry firearms. However, if you go that route, or let's say you are a person, you don't even own a firearm, but you're concerned about situations where you might need one, or maybe you're listening to this for the whole shit hit the fan concept. The right way to look at firearms is this. Familiarize yourself with what's in your area. And the number one way to do that is you look at local law enforcement. Go by precinct in larger cities. Look at the local FBI and their field offices. Any federal agents around, like Border Patrol out here in the Southwest. And also your sheriffs. Find out what pistols they use. Don't assume everybody has a Glock. A lot of places carry XDs. A lot of places carry 1911s. Some places carry M&Ps. Some places carry H&Ks. Some carry FNs. Some carry other things. There are places that still carry revolvers. Find out what they carry. Familiarize yourself with those weapons. Maybe you don't have enough money to own all of them. You don't need to. If you have access to a gun range and you have that list, go there every once in a while. Get 1 or 2 variants of common pistols that they use and practice with them, because those are the largest number of the same type of pistol in any one location, and there's many ways that you can come about getting those. So in a collapse situation, let's say there's a riot. Okay, we've had riots all over the countries, and officers have been wounded or killed. If you're in a situation where you're trying to get out of a riot and you come across an officer who's been injured, and you choose to defend that officer and try to protect him, this is just an example, it may not be what you do, and he has a certain type of firearm. If you're familiar with it, you can grab that firearm, load it, safely use it, engage targets, and protect that individual. Granted, there's hundreds of scenarios. That is just one. We've discussed hats in previous videos. They may or may not have a hat. A lot of times they really don't, but they usually have them available. But typically you will see them wear sunglasses. If you met anybody that worked in that world of espionage or counterintelligence in other countries, one thing you'll find is they don't tend to wear glasses. That's a handicap. They'll at least have laser surgery done, because if you lose those glasses, that's a significant thing to not have your sight. But they will have sunglasses. Sunglasses are a tool. You can break them apart and use them for many different things, and I'm sure your imagination can run wild with that, as well as use the lenses for magnification and other things. But another reason sunglasses are worn are to cover the eyes and not just for protection. It's to allow you to look around at different things with eye movements that would go unnoticed because you're wearing dark sunglasses that would be more than obvious without glasses, as well as hiding your natural eye movements that even with a lot of training are difficult to control when you're talking to somebody, so that they can't necessarily identify whether or not you're telling the truth, deceiving them, thinking about something, or at least attempt to set a baseline pattern to figure that out. Graymen tend not to carry identification. To be honest, I rarely carry identification on my person, if at all, only when it's absolutely necessary. That gives you a lot of things. For example, lying about who you are. Or, if you want to gain the trust, telling the truth. You run into law enforcement, seems like a decent person, you tell them you didn't carry ID, maybe it's a state law, maybe it's not, who cares? Tell them who you are. If they want to run the check, give them all the information they need. The nice thing about that is, you've just established a pattern that you're a very truthful and honest person, and then from that point, anything they decide to question you on, they're going to at least subconsciously want to believe, if not tend to believe it, and you are now in control. It's up to you how much truth you want to give. And that can be with any situation. I'm just using law enforcement as an example where you may be asked for identification. Granted, there's situations where you need ID in your everyday life. Maybe you're using your credit card and you get asked for it. Perhaps you need it to gain access to a location. Who knows? But they typically don't carry it. It gives them the ability to tell the truth or lie as suits them in order to work their way in and out of areas and conversations. However, Graymen do carry cash. In fact, a Grayman on an operation will carry quite a bit of cash. Sometimes several $100s, but at least a couple hundred, or the equivalent of that in another country, not based on exchange rate, but based on what it would purchase. Now, the reason they carry several $100s is, well, first, when they carry that kind of money, it's separated across their body. Maybe you got a $100 bill in a sock, maybe you got a little in your front pocket, maybe there's something in your shirt pocket, maybe there's something in an uncommonly known type money belt or hidden somewhere like that, but it's separated. So let's say you're getting mugged. Well, if a gray man's doing an operation or surveillance and they're getting mugged, they're going to let it happen. People get mugged all the time. If you have a large amount of money, you can allow them to find or hand over, or reluctantly hand over with that shitty 2-bit watch or knockoff you're carrying. That's a win, and typically the mugger will leave. You don't have to do anything that will draw too much attention. You don't have to hurt or kill them, which could involve law enforcement or other individuals or witnesses. At best, you're on camera as a victim, and then you can continue on about your business. Another thing about it is you can buy information. Even in America, you can buy information. It doesn't take much money to buy your way in the door of a club or in the door of a private institution or to pay a bartender or somebody else for information. You know, people on the street that live on the street, prostitutes, bums, vagrants, lost kids, whatever. Money is a big thing to them, and they will do a lot for money. Paying them can get you a lot of good information. They got nothing else to do but to see and watch things. You can actually put them on the payroll. Initially, with large amounts of money, you can get a room and pay cash. And usually you would stay in a shitty motel. You can pay for your board, your food, anything like that. Most people don't turn down cash. Another type of money that would be carried typically would be coins if it's required in the area. For things like using a payphone, riding a trolley, riding a bus, paying tolls, paying for a parking meter, and also kids. Younger kids, smaller kids respond to change. It's shiny, it makes noise, they know they can buy candy with it or toys. Not all of them are hustlers and know what big bills are, and a lot of times a little bit of change will buy favor. And sometimes with kids that you have access to, it's kind of like if you think about dating somebody and you meet their kid and you make a good impression and you do a magic trick or you give them a quarter for helping you carrying the groceries and then they like you all of a sudden. Well, you can do that with strangers too. You don't have to be giving people money or gifts in order to get something at that time. It could be just so that they'll remember you just enough that the next time they see you, they remember who you are, they're happy to see you, and they might give you information. You just have to set it up in a way that it doesn't look like you're trading money for information or that's the only way they're going to get the money. And it makes it a lot easier for them to trust you. However, if they do carry coins, which is a rarity, they tend to carry some sort of rag, not necessarily just the clothing they're using, because the clothing may not matter, might be made out of material that doesn't work well as a rag. The reason why they would carry a rag, especially something like microfiber, is wiping off a phone. If you go to use a public payphone and you don't want your fingerprints tracked, one of the things you do is you wipe the phone down before you even before you start to use it. Yeah, maybe you look a little weird, but all people are going to think is a lot of people touch it, you don't want to get sick. So then as a courtesy, when you're wiping it off afterwards, it doesn't look strange when all you're doing is hiding your fingerprints. The nice thing about it is while you're doing that, you're very carefully and unnoticed, because people aren't paying attention, wiping off the coins before you stick them in the slot. It just looks like you don't want to get sick. But then if somebody's highly motivated and they want to open that phone up and start pulling coins out and running prints, they're going to get some with nothing on there. Additionally, you can wipe off your glasses constantly. Those who wear sunglasses all the time tend to carry some sort of rag to constantly wipe them off, because whether you want to or not, two things tend to get on the lenses. One is some sort of facial oil or skin flakes from your nose or forehead. That's just reality. And possibly fingerprints. Those are two ways to identify who you are, so that if your glasses get broken and you have to throw them away, they get taken, or you're foolish and forget them, there's quite possibly no identifying marks. All it looks like is you're constantly wiping off your glasses because you like to keep them clean. And quite honestly, if you have naturally oily skin or you apply a lot of lotion to look like it's oily skin, most people won't make that connection, but subconsciously they'll realize oily skin, wiping it off. That's just a simple thing to remember. But that allows you to wipe off a lot of things. Door handles, doorknobs, insides of cars, windows, whatever that you need to wipe down. Another important thing actually are the small binder clips. You know those little black clips with a lot of tension on them, and they got two little silver things on each side, and you squeeze your fingers together, open up, and they grip paper. It's like the cool new paper clip, but they're black and they're made of metal. They're called binder clips. Look them up if you don't know what I'm talking about. They come in several sizes, typically a small, a medium, and a large. Well, smalls are great for a money clip. Now, if you think about all this money and you saw the size of a small one or know what it looks like, you're thinking, well, that doesn't seem right. Well, remember, you're going to separate that money in several locations across your body, and maybe even in a vehicle or whatever. One of the ones that's going to be the most obvious you can pull out and people can see would be on that binder clip. Now, here's why that's important. The handles come out of that thing very easily, which you can figure out with no problem. Take it out with your fingers. What you do is you use that binder clip, you clip a certain amount of money. Fold it over, you remove one of the handles, so you only have one handle on there. Now, if somebody's trying to take your money, and let's say you just forcefully grab it, try to be nice enough to slip that binder clip off, because you need the binder clip, and give them the money. They're not going to fucking care. If they take it, no big deal. That other handle to the binder clip, you have hidden probably in your body somewhere. Typically, it would be hidden towards the back, because if you got handcuffed, you probably had to be at the back. Some people carry one front and back, or just somewhere they can access. What you'll discover if you practice with handcuffs is that is the ideal size to unlock handcuffs and to get out of there. You don't need to carry a handcuff key. They're cheaper. You can steal them from any office. They go unnoticed. People know what binder clips are. People don't see this little fake BS plastic handcuff key I'm trying to hide in a belt or something. They work great for that. They're very hard, very rigid, difficult to bend. You can also unlock the pins in a handcuff, and it works very well, and it's actually fairly easy. And because of the natural hook angle and the smooth metal on there, you have to rotate on both sides of the handcuff to unlock it. It works pretty easily. If for some reason you need to undo the binder clip from the money in a normal situation, it usually just slides right out. It's not a big deal, or most of the bills do. If you have to put it in, which really I'd just throw everything back in my pocket, but if you had to do in front of somebody, that pin you're carrying would be used to do that. All you do is look like an idiot to somebody, and you don't look like a threat.